Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Let's talk about protecting your rating, what you need to do, and how you can protect your rating. And I'm going to kind of swim upstream on this a bit. This is not the 10-year rule. It's not the 20-year rule. This is other ways that you can protect yourself with the VA by ensuring that you meet certain criteria. In some cases, veterans meet certain criteria and they don't articulate it appropriately with the VA, and maybe you miss out on a level of protection, in my opinion. So before we jump into it, I want to throw out a very special thank you to James MCG 1446. James, unbelievable, brother. Thank you so much for the super comment, super chat thing. I really do appreciate your support very much. I just, it's a lot. Thank you. I really do appreciate you. James MCG 1446. Thank you. All right, so jumping into this, and when I'm talking about swimming upstream, what I'm saying is okay, let's think about this in kind of the whole life cycle of a veteran with VA disability claims and so forth. One of the ways that the VA will end up reducing you is by having a re-examination of one of your conditions, and they may deem it to be maybe better. Maybe you were having a good day or something that day. Now, there's different variants of this. The most common that we see is you file a claim with whatever evidence you gave the VA, not really thinking too much about the downstream effects. And the VA says, great, we're going to service connect you, but we're going to do a future examination somewhere between 3 to 5 years. So how can we, as veterans going through the process, by the way, most veterans don't file their disability claims until many years later, and oftentimes suffering with those conditions, obviously, for many years prior to actually filing for the claim. So what can we do to put, the evidence in place to have the VA not require a future examination or a re-examination? I'm going to read through the CFR here on this specific subject of re-examinations, and we're going to dive into why the VA will not have a periodic future examination. And there are 6 different reasons why the VA will not have a future re-examination. And if you fall into one of those categories, well, now you got protection, right? Against that future examination. Now, with that, hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. Every thumbs up, every minute watched really does help the channel. I really do appreciate your support. If you want to support in other ways, consider being a member. I really do appreciate you members very much. I do my best to get back to you in the comments. Thank you so much. All right, so, sometimes it's hard to talk that much without breathing. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to get through this. We'll get to the 6 reasons here in a couple minutes. So bear with me. I got to give you kind of the front-loaded information here just so we can kind of go through it. So for re-examinations, this is under the general section, which is A, and it's in the CFR under 3.327 labeled re-examinations. Re-examinations, including periods of hospitalization, will be requested whenever VA determines there is a need to verify either the continued existence or the current severity of a disability. Generally, re-examinations will be required if it is likely that a disability has improved, or if evidence indicates there has been a material change in a disability, or that the current rating may be incorrect. Individuals, now, that part's kind of funny, because they're definitely not going to reach out to you and go, hey, you know that 10% that we gave you for migraines, we really think it should probably be a 50, so let's go ahead and get you back in here and have some conversations. They're not going to do that. But if you had a 50 and then you go the other way, that's more likely from the VA, just to kind of throw that out there. So moving on, individuals for whom re-examinations have been authorized and scheduled are required to report for such re-examinations. Now, I have heard and seen different opinions on that. my suggestion is if you're required, if you get, we'll call it summoned to a reexamination, prepare, get all your stuff together, maybe even go to the doctor prior to that and make sure you have some current medical evidence in the event they try to reduce you, but definitely show up to it. All right, so moving on. It says here, you must report to those reexaminations. Paragraph B and C of this section provide general guidelines for requesting reexaminations, but shall not be construed as limiting. So that's the kind of the gray area, right? Not limiting the VA's authority to request reexaminations or period of hospital observation at any time in order to ensure that a disability is properly or accurately rated. So all that to say is that the whole purpose of having reexaminations is so the VA can ensure that you are being rated appropriately based on the evidence of your condition's severity, right? So the more severe the condition is, generally the higher the rating will be. So let's move on to this next section here, and this is important, and this is the first paragraph before we get into the actual 6, we'll call it protections against a reexamination. So again, the CFR is kind of like the rule book for the VA, so that's why it kind of speaks to the VA employee, what you need to do in order to do this, or what this looks like, or what you should do if this occurs. That type of stuff. The M21 is also a little more dialed in that aspect. All right, so compensation cases, we're at section B. Number 1, scheduling re-examinations. It says assignment of a pre-stabilization rating requires re-examination within the second 6-month period following separation from service. So that affects some. Most people are going to be under this section. Following initial, your first Department of Veterans Affairs examination or any scheduled future or other examination, re-examination, if in order, will be scheduled within not less than 2 years nor more than 5 years within the judgment of the rating board, unless another time period is elsewhere specified. So 2 to 5 year window from your initial, VA claim, essentially. So what are we talking about here? When the VA approves your service connection, then what's going to happen is they can set out a future examination date for you, and they want to do it before that 5-year period. Why? Yeah, because of the 5-year rule. So the 5-year rule makes it more difficult for the VA to reduce your rating. They need more evidence showing that your condition has improved. It's more cumbersome, more laborsome, and they need more evidence, showing that your improvement is really staying in that improvement kind of direction. So 2 to 5 years for that future examination. Now, let's get into the when it won't happen, right? So no, this is, again, think of it as the VA employee reading this on what they're supposed to do. No periodic future examinations will be requested. In service-connected cases, which would be your service-connected disability compensation, no periodic reexamination will be scheduled. And then it has the 6 reasons. Here's your 6 reasons. When the disability is established as static. That's it. That's the full line. Well, guess what? If you suffered, for example, with migraines that are going to be service-connected when you get ready to file your claim, and you've been getting, let's say, treatment from your doctor, you're getting your prescription, whatever, for the past 7 years, then you decided to file your VA claim for migraines, you should absolutely prove to the VA that you have been being treated for your migraines for that period of time, more than 5 years, and at the same level. Let's say your severity has been the same amount of time, right? It didn't gradually increase severity; it's just stayed the same. It's always sucked, and here it is. You may also want to have your doctor write you a letter stating that your condition is considered static and that you've been on X medications over the course of the past 7 years, blah, 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 blah. Just a little paragraph that you can include in with your evidence when you file that claim, because you are establishing that your condition is static to the VA. And if your condition is static, then no future examination will be requested, which is good, because if they request a future examination, there's a potential, not always, but there's a potential that they could decrease you. And it just takes the pressure, the stress, nobody likes to go in for a reexamination. So that's number one. Number two, when the findings and symptoms are shown by examination scheduled in paragraph B to I, which is the first one that we just read, static, of this section, or other examinations and hospital reports to have persisted without material improvement for a period of 5 years or more. They have just doubled down on the fact that if your condition is deemed static. So there's different ways, right? So maybe there's a condition that's like, it's just, these conditions don't ever get better. You're exactly where you are, and it is what it is. You're only going to get worse from here with that condition. Boom, you're done. Static. Or if you have that material evidence showing that it's been static, no improvements over at least 5 years, if you provide that to the VA, you're deemed static, right? So it's just they're just highlighting another way to show the static nature of your condition. Number three, where the disability from disease is permanent in character and of such nature that there is no likelihood of improvement. Again, a static designation dependent on the type of condition it is. In this case, they're talking about a disease that just will never go away. You might be able to curtail it a little bit, but it's never going to go away. And so there you are. All right. Next one is in cases of veterans over 55 years of age, except under unusual circumstances. All right, so that's the 55-year rule is actually under the reexaminations section. So if you're over 55 years of age and you hear things like the 55-year-old rule, what they're saying is that if you are over 55 years of age, the VA most likely will not have you come in for a re-examination simply because they're deeming that your condition, because of age, is not going to get better as you age. It's going to stay the same or get worse. Now, and under unusual circumstances, I mean, it leaves kind of the door cracked open. I mean, an obvious one would be, let's say, cancer, right? So you get, let's use a presumptive cancer for an example. You have a presumptive cancer that's active. You get rated for that. They're going to want to re-examine you when you are able to get that to go into remission. And if the cancer is gone, then they're going to then change your rating and rate you on your residuals. All right, number 5, when the rating is a prescribed scheduled minimum rating. So if you have the minimum rating on the rating schedule, you have no future examination. Why? Because you're service connected for that condition. You're already at the lowest rating. So if you go in for a re-examination, they're not going to give you a lower rating because you're already at the lowest. They're not going to take away your service connection because you are service connected for that. So there's no reason for them to go through the process of re-examining you. All right, last one here, number 6, where a combined disability evaluation would not be affected if the future examination should result in reduced evaluation for one or more conditions. So if you have, for example, 100% rating, right? And you have 10 conditions that took you to 100%. If those 10 conditions that took you to 100%, let's say 8 of them were static, and 8 of them did not require future examinations because they were static in some way, and you had no future examinations, and those 8 conditions actually took you to 100%. The other two were just kind of extra conditions. You don't really need the ratings. They could be zeros for all you care because you're still at 100%. The VA is not going to schedule reexaminations on those conditions because even if they took you to a 0% on those conditions, you're still at 100%. So that's just a way to kind of look at it. Now, if they were able to move one to a 0, we'll say, and that changes you from 100 to a 90, then that future examination would be in place. But if it doesn't change your overall rating with the VA funny math, then you would be able to forego that future examination. On a side note, sometimes what happens is people will file multiple claims over the course of their life, and eventually they may get to 100%. When they get to 100%, the VA does not make them permanent and total. They're just 100% scheduler, pays out the same, but they miss a couple of the major benefits that get added as permanent and total. In some cases, the veteran has enough static conditions to rate permanent and total, but the VA just didn't figure that out because there's not a flashing light that flashes and said there's enough static conditions. It's just, you were at 30, now you're at 50, now you're at 70, now you're at 90, now you're at 100. Okay, cool. There you go. They're not looking at, it's a people business. Some people pay attention and they'll hook you up and they'll do the right things. Other people are just like, cool, you're at 100, boom, move on. And they miss that fact. You should absolutely look and see if your conditions add up to 100% with static designation. Now you can get your designations through your C-file, or a quicker way would be go work with an accredited rep who has access to the VA system, VBMS, and then they can essentially remote desktop into your file in the VA and look up your nature of your conditions. Are they deemed static or do they have future exams? All right, with that, thanks for watching. I appreciate you very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.